Well, Chris Froome's come out and he's basically said he's not a fan of the TT side of the stage races. Now, he's actually admitted that that's been a big success of his career. So why is he coming out and saying this? And what's my thoughts on, the TT system and the different bikes and the normal road bikes they're using? And how do I think the UCI should move forward if we take Chris Froome's opinion to heart and believe that there's some change that needs to be made in that arena? Now, Chris Froome was a little bit unclear exactly what he wanted the outcome to be, but he did say that he wasn't a fan of the TT style of racing because he was saying that the training to do that and the bikes, because of the instability of them, is just too difficult to train in. Like to get a run for an hour where there's no traffic lights or no anything, where you can maintain that consistent wattage, is very, very hard to find a place to do that. And he said also, because of the position you're in, it's very hard to be aware of objects around you, and it's very easy to have an accident, run into something, or not do a head check properly, and you can end up having an accident. And this is his reasoning. He's saying it's not so much the race, he says, but it's the preparation for the race that he believes is not practical for the road racing. Now, he wasn't really clear about how he wanted this to move forward, or if he wants road bikes to be used for the TTs, or he wants TTs removed altogether. He wasn't really too clear about that. And if you haven't seen that video where he talks about this, go and check it out up the top here somewhere. I'll put a link to it because it's quite interesting the way he talks. But he doesn't really say, look, what I would like to see is ... He doesn't really give a conclusion to his thoughts. But that's where I would like to jump in, and I would like to really clarify what I would like to see come out of his comments. And I've actually talked about this before in some of my previous videos. Now, my whole problem with the stage or road racing and the UCI and the way it's done at the moment is because, let's be real, most of the racing we watch is where they're in a peloton, they're riding along. The TTs, they may have one or two in something like Tour de France or the Giro, and it's not something that is the main percentage of the racing, and it's a specialist thing for the teams, so they still have to train for it because they can get some advantage there. And it makes it a lot more complicated for the teams because they've got to have different bikes, they've got to do training for one style of bike, they've got to do training for the other style of bike. But what I would like to see is the UCI relax the rules somewhat for the road racing bikes. Now, we did have that happen in the 90s, and the UCI now have become quite strict, and in recent times they've stopped some of the positions that the riders can ride on the bikes to get more aero, and they've also banned handlebars where you can lean your forearms onto the handlebars, and if you do that, or you have handlebars that allow you to do that, and you do it, then they're going to disqualify you. But this is where I think they're going the wrong way. My opinion is that I would like to see the road bikes rules relax so they become more aero like the TT bikes. But one thing that they could do is stop the very, very narrow bars that we have on the TT bikes that limit the control of the bike. So we can still have a minimum width of handlebars, but we can have them like that design that one guy was riding, where they've got a very short headset and long extensions that go to our braking levers, so you can actually rest your hands on the handlebars and you can get into a semi-TT position, but obviously your hands are further apart. And I would like to see something like that so people can get into more aero position, because what I think that will do in the racing is will allow more of the groups to make a breakaway, because the bikes are more aero. Once they get into free air, they can reduce the aero drag much more than they can on their bikes at the moment, and probably get more of a breakaway. We would see more breakaway, stay away, in theory, than we would see now. And I would like to see that, because I think that develops competition. It also puts a lot more thought into the peloton that they've got to chase these guys down, and we're going to have better racing from that. And also, the other side of the coin is the manufacturer of the bikes now have a lot more freedom to really build aero bikes. So we don't get these kind of half-soaked aero bikes which have got these knacker shapes with the back chopped off, which are really still not that aero, because the UCI have limited a lot of factors on the road bikes currently. So in conclusion, I think Chris Froome is really onto something here, and the view that I take on it is, not only will it benefit the teams and the riders like Chris Froome, who are actually doing it. These guys are experts at doing it, and they know what's involved in the two different types of riding, which you have the TT riding and your road race riding, and the different training that's required. And obviously he feels that that's a bit over the top, and the training that you need to do on the road for it is actually dangerous in some ways. But the other benefit that we would get is that the manufacturers now will have a lot more scope. If they relax the aero rules just for the road bikes, it'll give them a lot more scope to make bikes for us guys, which are UCI compliant, which the pros are riding, but they have more flexibility on how to make those bikes, make handlebars, make the shapes of the tubes, because now they're restricted. So because we have that knacker shape with the chopped off back, because they can't make the proper knacker shape, it'll allow them to make like one-piece body. Some of the bikes that we see in the triathlons, like the one that Ventia makes, is a one-piece body, very much like the Lotus bike. And I would also like to see them drop the weight maybe down 1 kilo. Now, the reason why I say that is not because I'm a rim brake lover. It's because I think we're getting too many novel things that the bike industry are making, which are more about comfort and feel and all this sort of stuff. Like, we've got electric gears now. Mechanical gears work just fine. I mean, people might say, yeah, it's more reliable for the front derailleur and all that, but really the differences are very, very small. The mechanical group sets, I've got a late model mechanical group set, and it just doesn't miss a beat. It's like fantastic. And we have things like integrated cables, which really save you 1 or 2 watts. They don't really make a lot of difference. Being able to make the frames and handlebars difference will give them significantly more advantage than concealing a few cables in the headset. And we also have disc brakes. Now, disc brakes is another thing. They feel very nice to ride because you've got that hydraulic leverage in them. So when you pull them, there's not the same force required. So they feel nice to ride, and the bikes are becoming kind of nice to ride. But if they drop the weight limit, what we might see is that they go away from this kind of nicety bikes, and they go back to a more traditional type of like built bike that's built for speed, rather than that's kind of built for the aftermarket and not the pros, because the bikes are just getting heavy. I mean, when is it the heavier bike's better? I mean, I know people say, oh, but it's only 500 grams, you can lose 500 grams. That's true, but once you've lose 500 grams, there's still 500 grams on the bike, so that's 1 kilo. And it's always been the way that a high performance bike needs to be light. I mean, let's be real, lighter bike's better. It's the same in cars. Lighter cars are better when it comes to racing. Now, what I would like to see is that we have a hybrid of the two. So they get rid of the TT bikes, but they have one bike that they can use in both, so they're training on the same bike. But that bike has much more aero characteristics than they do now for the road bike. So it becomes partially towards a TT bike, but not a fully blown TT bike, as you see, like with a triathlon bike they use for their swimming and their riding and their running. And then they could use that same bike, train on that same bike. It would have less cost for the teams, and it would mean less training for the teams, because they wouldn't have to then fine-tune 2 different types of bikes. So guys, leave your comments down below, right? What you think about it. Do you think that it's fine just the way it is, or do you think that it should be overhauled and get rid of one form and just have the other form? And TT bikes is just some kind of oddball thing that they have, and with these specialty bikes that they can't use in the road racing? Or do you think that it should be all changed and we should just have one bike, like my idea, or kind of what Chris Froome's sort of pushing for? He wasn't very clear about exactly what he wanted. He didn't say, I would like to see the UCI do ... He didn't really say that. It was kind of like, yeah, I would probably like to see maybe the road bikes racing the TTs, and TT bikes shouldn't be used, but he didn't really clarify what he would like to see. Well, anyway, guys, remember to smash that like button and subscribe button, and I will see you next vid. Cheers.